Welcome to Imperial Kingdom. Let's talk about Errol Spence real quick. He's got his fight with Tim Tszyu and it's going to be a blast. You could almost definitely say that because this is the only way Errol knows. Errol doesn't know anything else. And some people have said because of the layoff, the long layoff he's had a good couple of years now. Seems like 3 years. He's been off. That he's going to be so rusty. He hasn't had much practice. On top of it, he's coming straight in, deep dive, to face higher level fighters. So is that a wrong thing? Is that something he shouldn't be doing? Or is it something he should do? Well, the thing is, Errol's Mr. No Tune-Up. That's his name. That's his nickname as well. Mr. No Tune-Up. Errol the Truth Spence. Or Mr. No Tune-Up. He also goes by that moniker because Errol just doesn't like taking tune-ups. He said he doesn't really believe in it. And he believes that once you get in there, you get in there. A fight is a fight. Again, isn't that the reason why I said let's not make any excuses about the bad thing? It's coming from the same person, right? Okay. So Mr. No Tune-Up, it'll be consistent of him to just go ahead and get his fight on with Bud and leave no excuses. So I heard even Roy Jones say, no, I don't buy that. That if the interviewer who was SOG, Andre Ward asked him those questions that he had to answer. He was obligated to answer. That he was basically, I was just answering. That's what Roy Jones suggested. But I disagree. And I wholly disagree. In other words, there's no room for agreement in this particular one. See, Roy Jones is obviously one of the standout fighters of the century, not just of the near period that he fought. But he is definitely one of the standout fighters of the century. But on this case, it could just be somehow he feels that's causing him to be somewhat steadfast in his talk. But the reason I have no room for agreement in this one is because once a professional fighter goes into the ring, especially I emphasize the word professional. So the word professional, once a professional fighter decides to step into the ring with an opponent, there's no room for excuses after that. Once you get in there, you can't now make excuses and say, oh, you were injured, I had this and I had that. Fans shouldn't be making excuses. Talking about anything, injuries or car crash. And don't forget, Spence had a fight with Ugas before that, and he brutalized him. Ugas is an elite fighter, top rated fighter, and he brutalized Ugas. He broke 3 whole segments, or if you like, categories of bones of Ugas. Broke his bones. Spence broke his bones in orbital, on the cheekbone, and the ribs. Those are dangerous. And that was not the only fight he had. And he did well in each one of those. It was highly competitive, and there was no room for excuses. Errol was superior. When Errol did that to you guys could have turned around and said, I had all these injuries and all these aches and all this everything, and that's why I lost. I just had a fight with Pacquiao. Pac nicked me somewhere. Legendary fighter nicked me somewhere, and for whatever reason, I was still feeling it. You guys could come around. In fact, he could still do that now, because Spence came 3 years after the fact and said that. So you guys could say, well, if he can come 3 years later, I can also come 3 years later and say X, Y, Z happened. It was Pac though, also. So that's even more justified. It's a legend I was fighting. And even though I beat him, he nicked me here and there. And he knows how to do that. So he was unable to execute what he needed to execute in that moment in time. So what he needed to do, what Spence needed to do was ensure What Spence needed to do was ensure that there was no excuses. There was no room for it, and there is no room for it. Like I said in my last piece, concerning this, we don't want to hear it. We're not interested in those excuses. Nobody wants to hear it. We're professionals. He walked away with the money, didn't he? Probably like 20 mil. It was good money. 5 years wait, a lot of intense negotiation for that fight with Bud Crawford. So I said, at the end of the day, we have to still respect Spence. I do, because he's a champion. At the end of the day, he steps in the ring, and we have to give it to everyone who steps in between those ropes, who steps on those canvases that we call the squared circle. Still a champ. And we know what he's done previously and who he's handled, including Kell Brook. I call him the keyhole opener. Unlocks crazy doors. And you saw what he did with, what Brook did with Porter. When Porter was a wind and a thunder in the game. Brook absolutely opened that up, opened those keyholes. It's quite shocking. So I was wondering at the time how Spence would manage someone who knows how to deal with such tornadoes, such winds. And it was incredible how Spence did that. So now I still give Spence the props for everything he is. He's not anything less. And this is what I say. Just because you lose doesn't mean you're now some kind of pussy. Just because you lose doesn't take away the fact that you're a warrior and you're amongst the champions and that you're elite and a higher echelon. And that's what Spence is. Don't fall for that stuff. A fighter loses, that means it's all over. No. All you have to do is give credit to the one who won. Let him be elevated as he's supposed to be. Give him due respect. Sometimes a crown, sometimes a throne. And that's what Bud got. You don't want to now take it away. Can't be doing that. So, tonight he's got this fight. And we're going to see how it goes because it's been 3 years or so. And in this period of time, see, if it was someone else of a different type of style, different type of fighting manner, I would have to advise and admonish that one to take a tune-up. You need those tune-ups. See how your thing goes. But the thing is, Spence's style suits one who doesn't necessarily need a tune-up. Yes. It's coming at you. It's a train. It's a tornado. It's consistent. It doesn't need much memorization. It might do. He knows what he's doing. But compared to a more complex manner or system or strategy or fighting, his isn't. Very fundamentally sound and consistent. And the things he requires, he knows. That's why he doesn't opt for tune-ups. His style, Spence's style, isn't one that's asking for tune-ups. This is the one thing I would say that one of the highest reasons I can put aside those feelings of, oh, this guy's been away for 3 years. He fights a very natural style. Spence fights a very natural style. And he suits a human spirit. So he's going. He's coming at you. It's consistent. And the only question is whether he's able to do that. So it's just a question. I would think the chances are high that he can do it. There's a chance, of course, that there could be something wrong that we don't know in terms of time, the same thing, or in terms of how he feels about boxing, in terms of what your spirit is like going in. And another reason why I don't want to hear the previous excuses, and here's where all of you will have to agree. You have no choice but to agree, including my friend Roy Jones. By the way, Roy, I lost your number. So I'll try and see if I can collect it again I'll figure out how to get it again. I haven't spoken to you since I lost my phone. My phone was taken somewhere. Something happened in a particular place where I was, and that phone is gone. But Roy Jones, We'll try to communicate again, possibly, hopefully soon. Anyways, as far as excuses is concerned, where I disagree with Roy, if we are going to give Spence excuses, and we're going to afford him those excuses, whatever excuses we're given. So I'm kind of mixing subjects here slightly. It's not too complicated. I'm sure you can follow. If we're going to afford him those excuses, right? Pay attention. Then that means tonight, we have to do the same. Spence can come again and say, hey, something was up. That's why I lost. He can say that again tonight. Why not? This is one of those sequences that are recurrent, potentially, if you accept the first one. So it's either you're saying you don't accept it, or you're saying you will accept it again tonight if something happens. For the reasons I've mentioned, the consistency of system in which he operates, I feel he needs less of tune-ups, just as he feels. Just needs to train as he does and come in. And it'll still be credited to him, even though it's been a while. It'll still be credited to him that he did a job on Zoo, if he manages to do that tonight. Spence is a wind. Spence is a thunder. Spence is a tornado. And another thing I credit him with is that tenacity, that style, that strength, that consistency. Right? And one thing I would say is another reason why he could very well easily have it again today is the very fact that he's now one division higher up. What does that mean? That means he's not wanting for weight cut. He's not going to be drained. He's going to be well fed. He's going to be much happier mentally. It's going to be interesting. Not that he was drained before. I'm not saying he was drained before. I'm saying this is what all fighters have to contend with, whichever division they are. Is one thing ticked or crossed, depending on their situation, their condition. In this case, he's coming a whole division higher, 154 from 147. So he will be much more comfortable, physiologically speaking. Spence is not going to have the issue of weight cut on top of whatever else he feels is a discomfort. I'm looking at a strong Spence coming in. I'm looking at a vibrant coming in. Vibrant Spence. I'm looking at a strong wind, a strong tornado. These are the things Zoo's going to have to deal with. Zoo's going to have to deal with a serious problem today. Zoo's got it all. Zoo's got it all to deal with. This is not a walk in the park. If he does it, if Zoo manages to do it, I give him full credit. Full credit. If Tazu manages to deal with this, full credit. Whoever wins. May the best man win. And I believe Spence will be at one of his best. I'm looking at how he dealt with Ugas, and I feel like there's a good chance that might be the Spence we're going to see. Zoo's not bad. Zoo's a good fighter, of course, but he hasn't been at his. He's had a couple of losses, and he's going to need a lot to beat Spence. He seemed very focused, but you're going to need more than that for Errol Spence. Till next time on Imperial Kingdom, this is Xtreme Martial Artist, Combat Master, Olisa Ossai. See you soon.